गणानां त्वा गणपतिगुं हवामहे कविं कवीनामुपमश्रवस्तमं ज्येष्ठराजं ब्रह्मणां ब्रह्मणस्पतान् शृण्वन्नोतिभिः सीदसादनं श्रीमहागणाधिपतये नमः। गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। Dear friends, we are in this Kathopanishad, the second adhyaya, second valli and 15th mantra. That is the last mantra of this valli. So this mantra, I think in the last class I read and I was explaining. I started explaining. That is, na tatra suryo bhati na chandra tarakam nema vidyuto bhanti kutoyam agnihi tameva bhantam anubhati sarvam tasya bhasa sarvamidam vibhati. So that is the mantra. So we are talking about one particular light which is the illuminer of all. We think that sun is the illuminer, moon is the illuminer, the stars, when it is totally dark, the stars are the illuminers, and then sometimes the vidyut means the the lightning which appears in the sky, that is the illuminer sometimes. Then kutoyam agnihi, what to talk of this agni? Sometimes we think that this agni, when it is dark, we think the agni is the illuminer. But then all these things, they illumine only on the basis of something else. All these things are useful only when something else is available. So this is here all the imagery, all the images that are given are relating to eye. We are only referring to a light. Light is something which is perceivable by the eye. So this has to be extended to all other indriyas. We are only talking about eye representing all other indriyas in this particular mantra. So Surya is something relating to the eye only. So then Chandra relating to eye, this lightning relating to the eye, then Agni is again relating to the eye. So this thing has to be extended to all other senses also, that is sense of touch, sense of taste, sense of smell, all these things we have to extend. So here the basic point is, what is the basic source of consciousness? What is the basic source of understanding things? Is it that straight away the eye is able to perceive? Or is it that straight away the nose is able to know objects? Is it that the ear is straight away able to know the objects? What is it that is illumining? What is it that is behind our consciousness, behind our understanding? So that is the basic question. That is the basic question we also put in our Gayatri mantra. Dhiyaha yonah prachodayat bhargo devasya dhimahi dhiyo yonah prachodayat. It is not a question. There we are praying. We are saying dhimahi. We worship that particular consciousness which is the illuminer of all our dhi vritti. Dhi, not only dhi vritti, dhiyaha, that is our intellect. Whatever is illumining that intellect, that particular source of consciousness we do worship. So that is what we say in Gayatri mantra. So that is something similar here. So let us see this mantra. Na tatra suryo bhati. Surya is something. Surya, as we saw as I was telling in the last class, he is also supposed to be the adhisthana devata for the eye, presiding deity for the eye. Chandra is again the presiding deity for the mind. So one Swamiji, in fact Swami Akhandananda has given this interpretation also. We can accept any interpretation so long as it does not contradict the main doctrine of Vedanta. So here he says, na tatra suryo bhati. The eye is something which cannot see. That is the indriyas cannot see. Na chandra tarakam. Chandra represents the mind. Soma is Chandra. Chandra, that is the moon. Moon represents the mind. So the mind doesn't think of it. Mind cannot conceive it. Then nema vidyuto bhanti. For vidyut, of course, there is no special thing given. Kutoyam agnihi. Agni represents the vak. A vak means the voice. Agni represents the vag indriya. Vag Indriyam. Vak is again a karmendriya, isn't it? Vak Indriya is a karmendriya. So this karmendriya, the presiding deity is Agni. Agni is supposed to be the thing which burns everything. So similarly, Vak is as powerful as Agni. Whatever we say, whatever we utter is as powerful as the Agni. Because like Agni can burn things, your Vak also can burn people. So that is why Agni is supposed to be the presiding deity for the Vak. So Agnir Vak Bhutva Mukham Pravishat. That is one Upanishad, Aitareya Upanishad says, Agnir Vak Bhutva Mukham Pravishat. So Agni became, it entered the body in the form of Vak. So that is this Vak. So that means the words cannot describe that Supreme Brahman. The eyes, Indriyas cannot cognize. Then the mind cannot conceive of it. Then the Vak Jyoti, the Karmendriyas, all these Karmendriyas and all this Vak Jyoti that also cannot see. Then Tameva Bhantam Anubhati Sarvam. So whatever consciousness is there, that is the thing which is illumining all these things. Anubhati Sarvam, Tasya Bhasa Sarvam Idam Vibhati. And in that light, everything else is shining, everything else is seen. So here we can refer to one Brahmana from Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, there is one Adhyaya, fourth Adhyaya, the third Brahmana, the name is Jyotir Brahmana. In that Jyotir Brahmanam, there is a small discussion between that Jyotir Brahmanam is, the basic question is this only. The main question is, what is the source? What is the basic thing which is enabling everything to say perceive, cognize? So what is that? Kim Jyotirayam Purushaha. That is, this being. Purusha means any being. This being. What is the Jyoti? What is the light? What is the thing which is illumining it? And what is it that is enabling it to perceive, to cognize, to think? So this is the question by King Janaka to that sage Yajnavalkya. So the sage Yajnavalkya and King Janaka are two characters whom we find in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. So casually this Yajnavalkya goes to king's court, and then whenever this king sees such enlightened people, he puts various questions. So he started this question. So then this man says, okay, he says, logically he wants to lead. Logically he wants to lead to the conclusion that it is ultimately the Brahman. So he initially says, Yajnavalkya says initially, okay, it is sun. So sun means, okay, during the day, because of sunlight and all that, you are able to see, that is okay. Then what about when there is no sun, when it is in the night? Then he says moon. So okay, moon is something which is there in the night, and in the moonlight you are able to see. When moon also is not there, okay, this Agni is there. Agni is something which is there. Everybody after say in the evening, in olden days, just as now you switch on electrical bulb, they used to light an ordinary lamp, which is nothing but fire. So this Agni. So when Agni is not there and when all these things are over, when you go to sleep, then what is it that illumines your mind? Because your mind is not keeping quiet. The mind again is creating its own world. During this Jagrad Avastha or the waking period, you are able to see various things. Here again by light, not only eye, we have to take all other senses also. We have to take all other senses. This eye is only representing one particular sense. It denotes all other senses also. Then in the night, when you go to bed, when this whole world, when this Jagrat Prapancha, that is waking state, comes to an end, and when the mind is supposed to be, when all these Indriyas are supposed to be withdrawn, the Indriyas are withdrawn, only the mind is functioning, but the mind is quite active, mind is creating its own world. So what is it that is illumining? What is the Jyoti for the mind in the dream? So then he says there is a Jyoti which is apart from this body-mind complex. What is the Jyoti which is there in Sushupti? In Sushupti again, there is that consciousness. Sushupti does not mean that consciousness is not there. Because the moment you come back to senses, you will say, I slept very, very happily. So that was in that happy condition. That happy, that blissful condition, it was there. So that is why you are able to say, yes, I was happy. So that thing, that consciousness was very much there. So there is something called consciousness that he calls Swayam Jyoti. Hrudyantar Jyotihi, he says. What is this? Yajnavalkya says, Hrudyantar Jyotihi. That Jyoti which is in your own heart, Akasha, In your heart means buddhi. Hrudi means buddhi. Your own buddhi, in your own antahkarana, that light is there. In your own antahkarana, that light is there, which is the illuminer of all these things. And that is different from, it does not mean that in your intellect it is there when Yajnavalkya says, it does not mean that intellect is born there. So that is the view of the Tarkikas. The basic view is, where is this intellect from? Matter is there and mind is there. So all this, we know that this body is say made of these 5 elements only. These 5 elements again are sthula bodies, that is gross entities. So from this gross entities, the body has come into existence. So which means this matter is able to create the mind. The basic question in Vedanta is whether matter is first and mind is first. So Vedanta says it is the mind, which is the consciousness, which is first, and then it is this consciousness which is appearing as matter. Not that Vedanta does not say matter is there. Vedanta says this mind itself is appearing as matter. Okay, this is again very, very high philosophy. We need not go into that. But right now we will only say that what Yajnavalkya says is that Hrudyantar Jyotihi, this intellect which is there, which is abhasa matram, which is reflected in your consciousness, which is reflected in your intellect. So because this intellect of Brahman, this Atma Chaitanya is reflected in your mind or reflected in your intellect, you are thinking that intellect is myself. When I say I am identifying myself, number one, with body-mind complex, body, and then I am going to, when you put another question, when I say, okay, my I means my mind, my buddhi, my intellect, so that is where I am identifying, where I am stopping. So that is what Shankaracharya points out there. Even intelligent people, they identify themselves with this intellect only because that intellect is the place where that first reflection of that consciousness takes place. The reflection of consciousness, initially the very first point of contact is that buddhi, that intellect, and that is why even the wise people, they think that buddhi is their own Atma. But buddhi is not the Atma. There is again a reflector for that. There is again something else which is enabling it to think. So that is that supreme consciousness, and that consciousness is nothing but in your own Hrudi also. Whatever is in your Atma is outside. That is that supreme Brahman is this Atma itself is that supreme Brahman. So that is how that say chapter, the whole discussion is there. There is a lot of discussion about what a Buddhist say, that Kshanika Vijnanavadam, and all these discussions are all these arguments are proposed, and all those arguments are dismissed. So that is how this whole thing goes on. So anyway, we are not concerned with that. So the main point which is established in that Jyotir Brahmana is that this intellect, as you call it, is again illumined by something else called Chidabhasa, Chit Abhasa. That Chidabhasa, it is a reflection of consciousness on this buddhi. We mistakenly identify ourselves with that buddhi and call it I. But that certain buddhi itself is not I. There is that Chidabhasa is there which is illumining it. So that is what we have to see. So here again we have to see this word Tameva Bhantam Anubhati Sarvam. That is the thing which is the illuminer. Tameva Bhantam. That means this is in Dvitiya Vibhakti, that is nominative case, objective case. Tameva Bhantam Sarvam Anubhati. Following that, all other things are cognized, all other things are known. Here Prakasha, we should take it as not physical light, we have to take it as knowing, cognizing. So that is what we have to take. Anubhati, this word Anubhati, I think I explained once earlier. Anubhanam, whether you are able to directly cognize or is there something else which is the cognizer. That is the question. Bha, the word Bha means Prakasha, illumine, to know, to cognize. Bhati means cognizes, illumines, cognizes. So that is the meaning. Anubhati means following something else, it is cognizing. Following something else, it is cognizing. So I think earlier I gave one example. Suppose I say this thing shines. Let us say this pen shines. It is shining. Why? How? It is shining because of the light which is there. So this pen shines after the light. But light itself Suppose somebody has closed his eyes, the light doesn't shine. So which means the light shines after the eye. Then suppose, okay, the eye also is functioning, but the mind is not. My mind is elsewhere. Right in front of me, I have got this pen, but my mind is elsewhere. I am thinking of something else. My mind doesn't even cognize this. So this so-called I cognizes after the mind, anubhati. And this mind again cognizes after the buddhi, intellect. My buddhi again is not functioning, or I am in something in a dream or something like that. So buddhi is not there. So that is not cognizing. And then that buddhi is again a small infinitesimal part of that mahat buddhi. Mahat buddhi means that say the cosmic intellect, as we call it, Hiranyagarbha. Hiranyagarbha is again called mahat. That is the cosmic subtle body, as we call it. There is a gross body here, and then there is also a subtle body with us. So similarly, the cosmos again, if it is visualized as a sort of a body, the Stula Sharira, and also the cosmic intellect as the Sukshma Sharira, that Hiranyagarbha is supposed to be the cosmic subtle body, and then that is the cosmic mind, and that cosmic mind which is responsible for all the operations in the universe. So that cosmic mind is responsible for say this buddhi, isn't it? That cosmic mind, again behind that cosmic mind is that avyakta, that is what is called Maya, and that Maya again is based on that Supreme Brahman, isn't it? Maya again is a manifestation in that Supreme Brahman. So that Supreme Brahman is the ultimate cause after which everything else is being cognized. Everything else is being cognized only because of that. So this is the sequence, this is the chain of say cognition, let us say. So it is not the I which is seeing, it is not the mind which is seeing, it is not the intellect which is seeing, it is not the Mahat which is seeing, it is that Brahman which is responsible for illumining all things. So that is the meaning of this word Anubhati. Everything shines after. Anubhati literally means shines after. Shining after means knowing after. Shine doesn't mean physical shining. Knowing after, cognizing after. That is only when that Brahman consciousness is there, only then you are able to see, and then you are saying that I am seeing, etc. So this is the meaning of this shloka, mantra. Let us read the bhashyam. Na tatra tasmin swatma bhute brahmani sarvavabhasakopi सूर्यः भाति तद ब्रह्म न प्रकाशयति इत्यर्थः. So this sun may be the illuminer of all things, but then he doesn't come into operation with respect to that Brahman, with respect to that Supreme Brahman. He doesn't come into, sun cannot illuminate, sun cannot, his operation is no longer there. So na tatra tasmin swatma bhute brahmani. In that Brahman, which is nothing but your own self, swatma bhuta. It is one's own self, atma bhuta. Atma bhuta means one's own self. One's own self. Sarva avabhasakopi suryaha. Suryaha is sarva avabhasakaha. That is, he is the illuminer of all things. Then tatra na bhati tad brahma na prakashayati. He is not he has no operation with reference to that Brahman, because Brahman is the thing which is the cognizer of all. You are not cognizing it, because Brahman is something which cannot be cognized as an object. So that is the one basic thing we have to see. Brahman, you become Brahman, you understand Brahman and you become Brahman. But there is no cognizing it as an object. You cannot cognize, or you cannot see it, look at it as an object. But you understand it. You understand that you are that consciousness and you become Brahman by that. But then you cannot cognize it. So that is the thing we see in, say, here in Vedanta. Tatha na chandratarakam nema vidyuto bhanti kutoyam asmad drushtigocharaha agnihi. Tatha na chandratarakam. This moon and stars again, they don't come into operation. Then na ima vidyutaha bhanti. Nema is na plus ima. These things do not. What are these things? These vidyutaha, these lightnings. These things do not bhanti. They do not illumine. Then kutaha ayam asmad drushtigocharaha agnihi. Asmad drushtigocharaha agnihi. This agni which is in front of us. What to talk of this thing? Kutoyam. Kutaha ayam. What to talk of this? When sun itself is not able to do anything, when the moon itself is not able to do anything, what about what to talk of this Agni, which is there, something which is there on the ground? Then, kim bahuna yad idamadikam sarvam bhati tat tameva parameshwaram bhantam dipyamanam anubhati anudipyate. Kim bahuna. Kim bahuna means what to say. Why so many words? Kim bahuna means why so many words? Very briefly saying this is the picture. So that is what it says. Yat idamadikam sarvam bhati tat tameva parameshwaram bhantam. That Parameshwara who is the illuminer of all, following that only, everything else is seeing. Following that thing, following that consciousness, everything else is cognizing things. So, yad idamadikam sarvam bhati. Whatever is shining, that is whatever is cognized, whatever is known, it is known only by that supreme consciousness. That is it. That is the meaning here. Yat idamadikam sarvam bhati. We should not, for a minute, we should forget that bhati, it is not referring to physical light. Bhati means known, cognized. Bhati tat tameva parameshwaram bhantam dipyamanam anubhati anudipyate. So that supreme light, that supreme jyoti, that jyoti is responsible for cognizing. That jyoti is, in other words, consciousness, which is responsible for cognizing all the objects. Yatha jalolmukadi agni sanyogat agnim dahantam anudahati na swataha tadvat tasyaiva bhasa diptya sarvamidam suryadi vibhati. Okay, yatha jala ulmukadi agni sanyogat. This jalam is there. Jalam itself, jalam means water. Water does not itself burn. But then when you heat it up and then bring it to the boiling point and pour on yourself, it will burn. Then similarly, ulmuka, jala, ulmuka, adi. Ulmuka means, you must have seen in villages, they have some huge torches. Torch means not the battery, not the modern day torch. Torch means where there is a, what you call kagada. There is a long stick. At the end of the stick, they put some oil, some cloth soaked in oil, and then that is set on fire, and then that will be burning. So that is called a torch, a flaming torch. So that again we can, sometimes it is called firebrand. Sometimes they burn on both sides. They burn on both sides. There is a cloth soaked in oil tied at both ends. And then the people, they will do some, say, with both hands, they twist the sticks, and then they will make circles in the air. They will make all types of circles in the air. They take two sticks and then do this twisting. You make all types of circles in the air. So that is that firebrand. That is called ulmuka. So that ulmuka does not itself shine. Ulmuka shines only when you set fire, when you light it up, and then when you do that lighting. Only then it will Agni Sanyogat. Only when there is Agni Sanyoga, it is burning. Otherwise it will not burn. So similarly, Yatha Jala Ulmukadi Agni Sanyogat Agnim Dahantam Anudahati. So this Agni is burning, and then these things are only Anudahati. Anudahati means it follows, burns after this Agni. Because Agni is burning, water is looking as though it is burning. Because Agni is burning, this Ulmuka or this torch is looking as though it is burning. So that is it. So similarly, that Tasya Bhasa, because of the light, or because of the intelligence, or because of the consciousness of the Supreme Brahman, everything else is cognized. Tasya Bhasa, Tadvat Tasyaiva Bhasa, that is because of the Bha or intelligence of that Brahman, Sarvam idam suryadi vibhati. All these things are cognized only because of the Supreme Consciousness. Yata evam tadeva Brahma bhati cha vibhati cha. So that Brahma is seen in so many forms. Bhati means it cognizes. Vibhati, vividham bhati. Vividham means vividham in diverse forms. It is seen in so many diverse forms. That consciousness alone is appearing in diverse forms. Vibhati cha karyagatena vividhena bhasa tasya brahmanaha bharupatvam swataha avagamyate. So karyagatena vividhena bhasa. So you are seeing the karyam. Karyam means effect. This effect is effect means you take the human body itself. The human body, the human intellect, not the body, the human intellect. The human intellect is able to cognize. So from this, by seeing the effect, you have to see the cause. What is the cause? Karyagatena bhasa means by karyagatena vividhena bhasa. That is, by examining this intelligence which is capable of discerning things, this intelligence which is there in the karyam, in the effect, you have to deduce or you have to go back to the source. What is the source? That Brahmanaha bharupatvam. Bharupatvam is he is of the nature of bha. Bha means kanti. Kanti means luminosity, light. That is consciousness. Light does not mean physical light. That is consciousness, intelligence. So this intelligence which is reflected in the being, in any being, not only human being but in any being, this is nothing but a reflection of intelligence of that supreme being. So that Brahmanaha bharupatvam, that is self-luminous nature, let us say. The nature, the very nature of that Brahman is self-luminous. Then swataha avagamyate, swataha bharupatvam, that is, it is intrinsic to that. It is not something which is coming from somewhere outside, like in the case of the beings. All the beings, they don't have intelligence of their own, but the intelligence has to be reflected on them. But similarly, of course, it is not in the case of Brahman. In the case of Brahman, it is intrinsic nature, because that is how Brahman has been defined. Brahman is Satyam, Jnanam and Anantam. That which always exists, and then that which is intelligent, and that which is again infinitude. Another way it has been described is Satyam, Sat, Chit and Ananda, bliss. So in fact, if you see these 2-3 shlokas also, if you see the earlier shloka, that is 13th shloka, Nityo Nityanam Chetanas Chetananam, 13th mantra, it talks about Satyam, Sat, it always exists. Then the next mantra, Tad etaditi manyante anirdeshyam paramam sukham. That sukham, it is referring to that bliss, Ananda. Sat and Ananda. So this last mantra is referring to that bliss, Chit. Chit means intelligence. Sat, Chit, Ananda are these three things described in these last three mantras of this particular Valli. So here, Bharupatvam Swataha Bharupatvam. It is the intrinsic nature. This intelligence is something which is intrinsic to that Brahman. It is the very nature of Brahman. Avagamyate means it is known. Avagamyate. By examining the Karya, you are able to go back to its root. That is what we are actually going to see in this Tritiya Valli also. So examine the Karya and then go to the Karanam. Examine the effect and then identify what is the Karanam. So likewise it is Avagamyate. Nahi swataha avidyamanam bhasanam anyasya kartum shakyam. So that which is not intelligent in itself will not be able to recognize others, will not be able to recognize anything else. After all, Chetana or consciousness, how is it defined? Jada and Chetana difference is, Jadam or insentient is something which is itself, it doesn't cognize anything else, it doesn't cognize itself. Chetanam is something which cognizes others and cognizes itself. This I which is in us, first of all we are saying I. We are able to cognize ourselves, we are able to cognize the outside things. So that is the difference between Jada and Chetana. So here, Nahi Swataha Avidyamanam, that which cannot cognize itself, Bhasanam, Avidyamanam, Bhasanam Anyasya Kartum Shakyam. It cannot cognize other things. You have to cognize yourself, and you have to then only you can cognize other things. That is the very nature of Chaitanyam, very nature of consciousness or Chit. Then Ghatadinam Anyavabhasakatva Adarshanath Bhasana Rupanam cha Adityadinam Tat Darshanat. So there are in physical world, there are some physical examples are being given here. In the physical world, we are able to see that sun is able to illumine all other things, but certainly not objects like this ghata. Ghata means a pot or a jar. So Ghatadinam Anya Avabhasakatva Adarshanath. That is, we do not see this ghatam or an object illumining other things. Whereas we are able to see things like sun, moon, etc. Able to see, you are able to illumine other objects. So that is how a physical example is given, a physical comparison rather. A similarity is given here. So Ghatadinam Anyavabhasakatva Adarshanath. You do not see Anyavabhasakatvam. Then Bhasana Rupanam cha Adityadinam. Aditya, etc. Aditya and other things like moon and all these things, they are Bhasana Rupa. That is, they are capable of illumining other things. So that is how we are able to see from Karya to Karanam, we are able to see and then deduce that it is that Supreme Brahman's intelligence which is getting reflected in all things. So that is what we have to see. Maybe some supplementary reading, you can do that Jyotir Brahmanam. If you read that Jyotir Brahmanam of Brihadaranyaka, that will give us a better idea of what exactly is this Atma Jyoti and Swayam Jyoti, etc. Then we will come to this Trutiya Valli. This is the last Valli in this Kathopanishad. So there are altogether 6 Vallis. In these 6 Vallis, we have completed 5 Vallis. Okay, we still have a lot of time. We will start this Trutiya Valli. So Trutiya Valli again, right from beginning till end, it tells mostly about the supreme nature of the Supreme Brahman. And then at the end, it talks about what we have seen, this Shuklagati, Krishnagati in say Gita, Bhagavad Gita. It is making a reference to what happens to this Gati, Shukla, this Gati, what this Nadi, say this Nadi Dwara Nishkramanam, Shatam Chaika, Hrudayasya Nadyaha. So Utkramanam, this Prana Utkramanam, what happens? So that last couple of shlokas they talk about it. But by and large, this Valli wholly talks about the nature of Brahman. So then let us see this straight away. Okay. Tulavadharanenaiva Moolavadharanam Vrukshasya kriyate loke yatha Evam Samsara karya vrukshavadharanena Tanmulasya brahmanaha Swarupa avadidharaishaya Idam Shashti Valli Arabhyate. So this Shashti Valli, this 6th Valli, this 6th Valli means a creeper, as I said. So this 6th thing, this 6th creeper Valli is being commenced. Arabhyate means it is being commenced. It is a Karmani Prayoga. What for? Tulavadharanenaiva Moolavadharanam. So there here a basic principle of Vedanta is mentioned here. Tula Avadharanam, Moola Avadharanam. So Tula means what we say silk cotton. What we say Burugupatti. In Telugu we call it Burugupatti. You must have seen a huge Burugu tree. That huge tree, that is called the silk cotton tree. Silk cotton, I do not know the technical name, the botanical name. But then it is called a silk cotton tree. It grows very tall, very huge. Usually it grows in forests. It is actually a forest tree. So it grows quite tall, and then it gives a huge, say, fruit. And if it dries up, and then when you break that fruit, this cotton comes out. And that cotton is so thin and so silky. It is so silky. It is different from the cotton which is produced from plants. This the cotton which we get from the plants. It is rather coarse. It is rather coarse and rather thick. Whereas this silk, which is from that huge tree, that is called a silk cotton tree. It is so delicate, so smooth. So that is called Tula. Tula avadharanenaiva Moola avadharanam vrukshasya kriyate loke. That is, By examining this Tula, you are able to say that, oh, this belongs to this fig tree. This, suppose, of course, that English translation, some people have given it as fig tree. I am not very sure whether it is fig tree or not, but let us say silk cotton tree. So, Tula avadharanenaiva. So, that is, by examining this Tula, you are able to say that, okay, it belongs to that huge tree. And then you are able to say, oh, this tree, it goes down so deep into the earth. Moola avadharanam. Moola means root. Moola means root. You are able to know that it is going so deep into the ground. You are able to see, you are able to guess or imagine as to how deep the tree goes, the root of the tree goes, because once you see the height of the tree, you can reasonably guess the depth to which the root must have gone. So that is the thing. By seeing something which is there on the top of the tree, you can guess something which is down below, which is not seen. That is, by analyzing something which you know, you can go to something which you do not know. From what is seen, you are going to the unseen. From what is being observed, you are going to the unobserved. From what is vyakta, you are going to the avyakta. So that is the basic principle here. From what is the karya, you are going to the karana. Karya means effect. You are going to the karana. So that is the basic point here. Tulavadharanenaiva moolavadharanam. Silk tree is just an example. Say from knowing a karya, from analyzing a karya anywhere, whatever it is, from analyzing a karya, you are going to see the karanam. What are the karanam? Moolavadharanam vrukshasya kriyate loke yatha. Loke, that is what people guess. People usually guess by seeing that thing, okay, oh, this is a huge tree, the roots must have gone so deep. It's a very commonsensical thing. So here the point is, from examining the karya, you are going to the karana. Then evam, did we read it? Yeah, we read it. Evam, likewise, samsara karya vruksha avadharanena. So this samsara karya vruksha avadharanena. So this samsara vruksha is a karyam. This vruksha which we are going to see here, this particular mantra is starting with the description of a vruksha. In fact, if we see this Kathopanishad, actually some poet might have written it, a rishi and also a poet, because every valli is starting with a very, very dramatic picture. Every valli, if you see, if you take another valli, Rutam pibantau sukrutasya loke guham pravistau parame pararthe. Rutam pibantau, there are two things are there. Chaya tapau brahmavido vadanti. So these two things which are there, one is eating the karma phala, another is not eating that karma phala. Then again another sloka, if you says Puram Ekadasha Dwaram, etc., etc., he is giving the picture of a city with 11 gates. Another sloka, another valli opens with another very dramatic statement. Paranchi khani vyatrunat swayambhu. This swayambhu, this Brahman has has put a curse on these indriyas that they are all outward bound. They don't look inside. So very, very dramatic statements are being made in the very beginning of every valli. So what we can see is this particular Rishi must have been a great poet also. So Urdhva, here he says Urdhva Mulaha Vakshakaha, he is visualizing, he is putting before us, putting in front of us a tree which is topsy-turvy, which is inverted. Roots are upward, whereas all the branches, flowers, and then all the fruits and the leaves, branches, all these things, they are all down below. So if you see, for example, if you see some of these tantric, books, some books relating to Tantra, so you see this picture also. Tantric books, they also depict this samsara as a tree where the roots are all up and then all the branches, the trunk and all these things are down. Suppose you visualize, just as we imagine, we see a tree on the ground. So a tree is there on the ground, and then from the ground level you see the top of the tree, and then below unseen is the root portion. So similarly, suppose you look at the sky, firmament, suppose you call that whatever we see up to that what point, we call it the firmament. So from that firmament down below you visualize this prapancha, and then above we do not know what are the roots. So that is how, let us imagine a tree for some time. And this tree, it actually, when you see this samsara vruksha, we are not referring to the physical world. Samsara, by word samsara, normally we refer to the physical world, isn't it? But suppose there is a tree there, or there is a hillock there. Is the hillock having samsara? Hillock is not having samsara. A river is not having samsara. Or a tree is not having samsara. Only you and I are having samsara, isn't it? So if you actually see, it is not talking about the physical world. It is not talking about the physical world with nadi, all these rivers, forests, and then say mountains and whatnot. It is not talking about that physical world. It is talking more about your own predicament, your own mind, your own mental world, your own world where a world of love, hate, anger, all these things are going to be described here. So this samsara or transmigration, samsara basically is transmigration. This transmigration is only for the being. Transmigration is not for the tree, transmigration is not for the hill or mountain or anything. So transmigration is only for this, for the human being, not only human being but all the beings. So this samsara vruksha is the karya. Karyam means the effect. Samsara vruksha is the karyam. And if you see this samsara vruksha, if you properly analyze what is this samsara vruksha, then tan moolasya brahmanaha, and the moolam or the root of that samsara vruksha is that Brahma. That Brahma is something which is unseen. For example, if you physically visualize, if you just visualize a tree, and then the human body, the human sentiments, our own human love, hatred and all that, all our learning, all those things are going to be described. The Vedas we learn, the Shastras we learn, and then the friends we have, all these things are going to be described here. So all these things are like branches, leaves, flowers, fruits, all the good deeds we do are the good karma, are the fruits. So these fruits are enjoyed by somebody else. So all these things are samsara only, part of samsara. So this thing, the root of it is that Supreme Brahman. That Supreme Brahma can be known by examining the cause. So that is the logic here. Just as by seeing the top of a tree or something, some tula. Tula means some small cotton which is available from a fruit on the top of the tree. You are able to see, you are able to guess the moolam. Likewise, this samsara vruksha which is there in the mind of a being, mind of a man, let us say, mind of all the beings, let us say. But anyway, we do not know what is there in the mind of a dog or cat. Let us talk about ourselves. So samsara vruksha which is there in our minds. So this thing, if you analyze properly, then you will be able to go to the root of it. You will be able to go to the root, which is nothing but Brahman. Tan moolasya brahmanaha swarupa avadidharaishaya. Avadidharaisha means desire to know, intention to know. Avadidharaisha. Avadharana means understanding. Avadharaitum ichha is avadidharaisha. It is called sananta pratyaya. Avadharana means understanding. Avadidharaisha is say desire to understand or intention to understand, intention to determine. Avadharana actually means determine, not even understand. Determine, very clearly and decisively know, very clearly understand. So that is it. Avadidhareshaya idam shashti valli arabhyate. So here, this is talking about a sort of metaphorical representation of samsara as a vruksha. This samsara vruksha, basically it is a metaphorical representation. That is what we have to see here. So let us read this mantra. ऊर्ध्वमूलो वाक्शाखः येषोऽश्वत्थः सनातनः तदेव शुक्रं तद्ब्रह्म तदेवामृतमुच्यते तस्मिन् लोकाश्रिताः सर्वे तदुनात्येति कश्चन एतद्वैतत्. Okay, so here we are talking about a tree. Urdhva moolah. Urdhva, two meanings are given here. Urdhva is utkrustam moolam. So of course Shankaracharya has not given the meanings, but there is a commentator, Anandagiri, on this. Anandagiri says Urdhva is utkrushtam. Utkrushtam means supreme, great. Utkrushta. as opposed to Nikrushta. Nikrushta is something which is stupid, silly, all those things. Utkrushta is something which is great, magnificent. Utkrushta, great, supreme, that is the proper word. Supreme Moolam, Utkrishtam Moolam, Urdhva Moolam. Then another meaning given by most of the commentators, all other teachers is Urdhvam is something which is on top. Urdhva and below. Avak means downwards. Urdhva means upwards. Avak, Urdhvam Moolam. Avak Shakha. Avak means downwards. All the Shakha. Shakha means branches. Branches of the tree. They are all downwards. Then Yeshaha Ashwathaha Sanatanaha. Yesho Ashwathaha. Yeshaha Ashwathaha. This is in Pumlinga, that is masculine gender, so it is called Yesha. Yeshaha Ashwathaha Sanatanaha. It is referring to the tree. Vrukshaha. Urdhvamulaha Avakshakhaha Yesha Ashwathaha Sanatanaha. Ashwatha. Earlier I think we discussed this word. What is Ashwatha? Na Shvaha Tishtati iti Ashwathaha. Ashwatha actually refers to a peepal tree, what we call Ravi Chettu in Telugu. So that Ravi Chettu or a peepal tree, the meaning in philosophy is Na Shvaha Tishtati iti Ashwathaha. Physically you are referring to that tree, that's a different thing. Here we are referring to a tree which does not, which will not stay tomorrow. Na Shvaha. Shvaha means? Shvaha is tomorrow. Na shvaha sthasyati, na shvaha tishtati, na ashvatha. Tha means to stay, shva means tomorrow. Na plus shva plus tha. Ashvatha means that which will not stay tomorrow. This samsara is something which will not stay tomorrow. That is something totally changing, always in a state of flux, always in a state of change. So ashvatha. Then the very next word says Sanatanaha. Sanatana means something which is eternal, something which is permanent. Then what is this paradox? You are saying tomorrow it will not be there, and again you are saying Sanatana. Ashwathaha Sanatanaha. Is it not a paradoxical statement? So what does it mean? Ashwathaha, it is always there. It is always changing. It is always of disappearing nature, but it is also there forever. So, what does it mean? This ajnana or ignorance, which is the cause for this particular samsara vruksha. The cause for this samsara vruksha is ignorance only. And this ignorance is something which can be totally, it can be destroyed. Ignorance is something which can be driven away by jnanam. Ignorance is something which can be driven away by self-knowledge. So in that sense, this samsara is ashwatha. But at the same time, it is there. It is a sort of long-standing delusion, sanatanaha. It is there, some long-standing foolishness. Right from the beginning, you are having that foolishness, suddenly that foolishness is destroyed. So in that sense, it is sanatana. So this ignorance is considered to be anadi and santam. I was telling in Gita Bhashya also, ignorance is something which is anadi. Anadi means beginningless. This assumption of, this identification of, I with the body-mind complex is something which is anadi. Identification of I, myself, with this body-mind complex is something which is anadi. It is going on and on and on. The moment your child is born, we are putting so many inputs into that child that the fellow develops an identity, the fellow develops an ego, and then yes, I have to perform, I have to get more marks, I have to do this, this is my paper, this is my book, this is my pen. So an ego is built up in that child, and we are every minute you are putting up, we are building up that particular ego in the child. So in that manner, anadi pravruta. So this ignorance is something which is there, anadi. And then, but then it can be broken, it can be destroyed. So that is the meaning of this ashwathaha, and at the same time sanatanaha. So this is sanatana because something, this samsara is something which it is a nitya in the sense like pravaha nityatvam, as you say. Though it is always changing, like a stream, like a river, like a stream or a river is always flowing, it is always changing, but we also call it eternal. So that pravaha nityatvam is there. And in another sense, this ajnana is something, it is eternal, it is there beginningless, but then that ajnana can be dispelled, that can be destroyed by proper understanding. Then tadeva shukram tad brahma. Tat, here we are not referring to the tree, that tat is referring to that moolam. Urdhva moolah. Avak shakaha yeshoshvatha sanatanaha. We are referring to this tat refers to that moolam, the root, not to the tree. Tadeva shukram. Shukram means pure. That is something which is unaffected by anything. Something which is asanga, unattached. Tadeva shukram tad brahma. Tadeva amrutam uchyate. That is Brahma. That moolam is Brahma. Tadeva amrutam. That is something which is eternal. Amrutam is something which has nothing to do with this mortal, say, all this disappearing and changing world. Tadeva amrutam uchyate. Tasmin lokaha shritaha sarve. And in that Brahman, all these lokaha, whatever we visualize, lokyate iti lokaha, isn't it? Lokyate means that which is visualized, that which is experienced. Lokaha janmani, also Shankaracharya says, lokaha means that experiential state, that is loka. Or it can be a janma. You take the shape of, say, a human, you take the human body once, you take some other animal body another time, you take some other body of a tree and some other time. So these are all janmani. So these janmas, they are also lokas. So all these lokaha, shritaha. Shritaha means ashritaha. All these things are encompassed in that. Ashritaha. They are all sheltered in that. Shrita, ashraya, we know. Ashraya means shelter. So here, tasmin lokaha sarve shritaha. All these lokas are sheltered in that, means all these are encompassed in that. All these are contained in that. All these things are not contained, encompassed is a better word. Encompassed in that. Tadu natyeti kasyana. Kasyana, no one, anybody. Tat na atyeti. Na kasyana atyeti. Nobody goes beyond it. Nobody can go beyond it, means this Brahman is the thing which is there in everything, and then there is nothing beyond Brahman. If there is something beyond Brahman, it becomes, say, unreal, isn't it? Brahman alone is real, and if you say that I am different from Brahman, I will be an unreal thing. So that is why tadu natyeti kasyana. Yetad vai tat. This indeed is that. So this we have seen earlier also. So this is the overall mantra. Is this mantra clear? Yes. Let us read the bhashyam. Urdhva mulaha. Urdhvam moolam yat. Tad Vishnoh paramam padam asya iti. So soyam avyaktadi sthavarantah. Samsara vrukshaha urdhva mulaha. So this samsara vrukshaha urdhva mulaha. This tree which we call samsara is having the root upwards. Urdhva mulaha. What is this? Urdhvam moolam yat. That which is having the moolam. Moola is root. Urdhvam moolam. That is two meanings, as I said. Utkrushtam moolam. Supreme thing as the moolam. Or upwards. Moolam is upwards. That which is having its root upwards. Or the root is unknown. The cause is unknown. So that is it. Samsara vrukshasya cause is not known to us. Not physically seen by us. Unless we do an inquiry. Unless we do this Atma Vichara, unless we do this Shravana Manana and Nididhyasana, this Samsara Vrukshasya Moolam, we do not know. So that is it. Then what is that? Moolam Tad Vishnoh Padam Paramam Padam Asya iti. Tad Vishnoh Paramam Padam Sada Pashyanti Surayaha. That mantra is there. So what is that Moolam? Tat Vishnoh Paramam Padam. That is the supreme place. That is the supreme, not exactly place or dwelling. That is the supreme state of that Vishnu. Vishnu is Vyapakatvat, all that which is all pervading, say Brahman. In that all pervading Brahman is the source of this samsara vruksha. Padam paramam padam asyati. Soyam avyaktadi sthavarantaha. Avyakta adi sthavara antaha. Avyaktam adihi yasya. Tat avyaktadi. Avyaktadi means, avyaktam is its beginning. Avyakta is the beginning. Not Adi does not mean etc. Adi does not mean etc. here. Avyakta, Adi, Sthavara, Anta. Avyaktam is what? Avyaktam is that Maya. That first manifestation in that Brahman is Avyakta. Isn't it? Yes. And in that avyakta only all these things are materialized, or not exactly materialized, or manifest. They are all manifested in that. So that avyakta or prakriti or maya, that is that thing which is the first, from that only all these things are manifesting. From that unmanifest, all other things are manifesting. So avyakta is the adi. That starting from that avyakta, sthavara antaha. Sthavara means a tree, that which cannot move, a being. You see, there are two types of beings. One is sthavara and another is jangama. Jangama is that which moves. Sthavara is that which doesn't move. So, in our situation, it is not only the human being which is taken as a say being. All the sthavara, jangama, everything is taken as a being. Human being, life, okay. Human being enjoys a different status because human being's life is what is called karma bhumi. That is, this is the place or this is the stage at which you can do some good karma and then you can graduate to higher levels. Or if you do bad karmas, you will go down and then you will become a dog or a donkey or something else, or a tree or something else. So that is our scheme of things. And our system does not say human being, okay, God created a man in his own image and then he created all the animals for him as a food. Our books do not say all these deer and all these animals, they are your food, go kill them and then eat them. We do not say that. We do not say ma himsyat sarva bhutani. You are not supposed to say torture, you are not supposed to say himsa. Himsa is cause say violence, not exactly violence, but we say you should not kill animals, let us say. You are not supposed to kill animals except on the occasion of some sacrifice. Suppose there is some sacrifice which is there, so there is some yajna, as part of the yajna or something. In olden days they used to do that. But of course nowadays in any yajna or anything also we don't do any animal sacrifice. So anyway, this sacrifice is something, the sacrifice is not the subject here. Sthavara antaha. Sthavara, from this tree only we digressed. So this sthavara also is a being. So from avyakta, that is maya, up to a small blade of grass, brahmadi stamba paryantam we say. Starting from brahma, stamba paryantam, stamba is a small blade of grass, right up to that thing. All this samsara vrukshaha urdhva mulaha. Samsara, as I said, samsara does not refer to the physical world. Samsara refers to your own mental state. Because a tree does not have samsara, a hill does not have samsara, a river does not have samsara. It is we who have this samsara. So, then samsara vrukshaha. Then vrukshascha vrashchanat. So vruksha, the etymological meaning of vruksha is being given here. Vruksha means vrushyate iti vrukshaha. Vrashyate. It is very close to the English word wreck, W-R-E-C-K, wreck. So you can break it, you can wreck it. So that is why it is called vrukshaha. Vruksha is something which is vrashyate, is vrukshaha. This vrashya dhatu is very close to English word wreck. So that is, it can be broken, it can be destroyed. How can this be destroyed? This samsara vruksha, how can it be destroyed? By jnanam only. Samsara vruksha can be destroyed by shastra only. So that we are going to see that samsara vruksha is going to be destroyed by shastra, by this jnanam only. Then janma jara marana shokadyaneka anarthatmakaha.
Janma marana jara shokadyaneka
Pratikshanam anyatha svabhavaha.
Pratikshanam anyatha svabhavaha.
Maya marichyudaka gandharvadi nagaradivat.
Maya marichyudaka gandharva nagaradivat.
Drushta nashta swarupatvat.
Drushta nashta swarupatvat.
Avasanecha vrukshavad avabhavatmakaha. Vrukshavad abhavatmakaha.
Avasanecha vrukshavad abhavatmakaha.
Okay. Up to this point there is one sentence. That is, janma marana shoka adyaneka anarthatmakaha. So this samsara, this experience, let us say, samsara is again the human experience, let us say. We are not referring to anything else. This samsara, which is characterized by janma, jara, marana, shoka, etc., which are all anarthas. Anartha. What is the meaning of anartha? Opposite to artha. Artha, we have got Purusharthas, Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha, Purusharthas, four things which are sought after by the human being. So anartha is arthyate iti artha. That is, that which you seek is artha. That which you desire is artha. Anartha is that you do not want, na arthyate. It is undesired, something which is undesired, something which is unwanted. Not necessarily evil, something which is unwanted. Sometimes you may want evil also. You may want evil, but here anarthatmakaha. So nobody wants death, jara, nobody wants old age, nobody wants maranam. So nobody wants dukkham. All these things, they are all unwanted things. So what are all these things? Janma, again dying and again taking birth. Jara is old age. Marana, shoka, Adi, Aneka Anarthatmakaha. All these unwanted things because of the interplay of Sattva, Rajas, Tamo gunas. All these things happen. Shoka, Dukkha, all these things. Why do they happen? Because of this interplay of these three gunas only. You have got a Rajasa Swabhava. You want to dominate and acquire more and more things. You are greedy, suppose, say Rajoguna. One aspect of Rajoguna is also greed, isn't it? And that greed leads you, to some action, and that action will result in something else. So, like that, all these things are, because of this Trigunatmika Maya. So, and Anarthatmaka, then Pratikshanam Anyatha Swabhavaha. Then every minute, Pratikshanam, every minute is Anyatha Swabhavaha. That is, it is changing in nature. Someday you are happy, someday you are unhappy, someday you are having shoka, another day you are having moha, another day you are having raga, another minute, let us say, not day, every minute your moods keep on changing. I think if the time is the time over? Huh? If it is over, I think we'll stop here. We'll see the thing next. So what is the basic point which we see is, by observing what we know, you have to go to the unknown. The point is, you observe the samsara, you start negating one by one. By negating things, you are going to something which is unnegatable, something that is your identity, that which you cannot negate. So that is the point which we will see in the next class. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Avashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.